All right, Steve, it's been a minute since we've chatted, but I wanted to bring you on because I think that you have a very um, aggressive sales strategy. And I love that because I feel similar, except you have formal training. So, I mean, tell me a little bit about, I mean, kind of your business, how you scaled it at the beginning, because it was very, very fast. And I don't hear that very often.
Mm. Yeah. So the reason why I think that it scaled so fast was just from pure work and volume. And that's kind of like the same approach that I've taken to like coaching business owners and sales reps of like you learn faster the more reps that you do. And like because I know that a lot of health coaches and personal trainers tune into this is that it, the muscle of sales is very different than like your quads or your calves. Like you don't need rest to keep learning. You don't like the same way that you would rest your quad and like get some massage. You don't need that with sales. You can get off the phone and keep going on to the next sale. And people will like fear burnout, but that just comes down to like if you like what you do, find the thing that you like doing so that you have the most likelihood to continue to do it, and that will help you scale. So I think the reason why that I was able to scale so fast is because I just simply liked it. Like I liked it a lot. I looked forward to hopping on to every single sales call that I have. I still do. Like if I have a sales call on my calendar, it's the thing that I think about when I go to bed, the thing that I think about the morning of. Like I just get excited to talk to people.
I'm the same way. And I think that people, no one's going to be surprised if they hear me say this. If you're, if I've sent you this podcast or you're finding on your own, but I like DMing. Like I enjoy it. There's this, we all want to repel the DMs, right? And that's why I brought you on, because we're going to talk about kind of like scaling your business to the 7-figure mark or whatever that next level is for you. And no matter, aside from what you're selling and making sure you can coach, I mean, it comes down to sales and marketing. That's what it comes down to. Can you sell your offer? Can you convince somebody that they need it? Like that's what it comes down to. And so many people may have a great offer, they may have a great style of coaching, they may have great retention, but if they're not getting people in the door, right, like you're not going to do anything about it. And so tell me the numbers, because I do think they're important for you to say, like, how quickly did you grow? How quickly did you hit your first 7 figures? Because I think it's wild.
I hit the run rate of 7 figures and I hit my first 100K month within 3 months of launching. And so, and that's not to like flex or anything. That's just like, I don't think there's anything special about me. Let me make that very, like, look at me. Like, there's not a special thing about me. So, me scaling quickly to whatever the 7 figure run rate happened. What's really funny is it happened slower than I would have had liked to have happened in the moment. Which looking back, a lot of people would be like, wow, that's really fast. I'm like, didn't feel like it. Like it felt like I want things very quickly, or at least at that point I did. And so, well, what was the question specifically? Just more like how I did it?
Oh, kind of like how you grew and then the number, because I think it's important for people to hear. And this is by no means me saying, all right, everyone should make 100K in 3 months. That's not the kind of coaching I do, but that just
Got it.
shows the grit that you put in, because that wasn't luck, right? Like you don't have a large Instagram following is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I do not. I have 601 person in my mom that follows me on Instagram.
When I tag
And
Steve, he never repost me. Like I'm like, Steve, are you checking Instagram? Are you looking at this thing? So yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it makes me money. I will maybe one day, and I'll probably watch this recording and be like, what the hell? Instagram makes you a ton of money. But when I was growing the business, I didn't like I thought that people what's really interesting, and I think luck plays a lot of a factor into this, is uh it was at like peak COVID when I was performing this amount of volume. And like I mean, I did in 18 months, I did 2.3 million in sales. And that is just straight up from people wanting something online when gyms were shut down and me having something online and me knowing that. And I think that it's really opened up a lot of doors to online trainers who really want to have an impact online. They can do that because I think that the world's a lot more receptive to anything online because of COVID. And it's a lot more leverage too for everybody. It's leverage for the consumer and leverage for the trainer. Like very few people, most people would prefer to work out at home than go to a gym. And, you know, I speak from a personal training aspect here, but health coaching, same idea, is that you'll have that higher leveraged ability if you're remote than both, once again, for consumer and practitioner.
Right. So let's talk about kind of the DM volume, right? Because if you're listening to this, you already know the importance of outbound and all of those things. And that's kind of what I want to hit on is I work with clients, I talk to people all day, and a lot of people, there's two situations. One situation is a client has had really good luck doing nothing, and they've reached a point where there's no more inbound, right? They're like, I don't know what's going on. And my question is, okay, well, what lever can we pull? Right. In which case they are late to the game with the DMs and they think they don't need to even worry about any kind of outbound because they've had so much luck so far. That's case one. Case two is just the person who feels salesy and gross and whatever. And we're going to break these down individually, but let's start out with actually case two. What I hear more commonly is the people that come to me or whoever for coaching, and they're like, oh, I feel so gross doing it. I don't really want to do that. Is there any way to grow my business without talking to people? Right? Like, how do you help people overcome that?
Well, I think that both of those things have the exact same problem, is that people don't get rewarded from the right activities. So therefore they attribute the wrong activities to getting rewarded. For example, like the first thing that you said there is that, like, well, somebody was getting inbound sales and they had to do no work. So they've established that no work equals sales, which is the wrong lesson to learn because they don't attribute the fact, well, it's like the post and the 4 years of expertise to make the post is the thing that actually got you the sale. But they attribute, oh, I was sitting here and money happened. And so they learn that, like, okay, I was doing nothing and money happened, rather than I did 4 years of a degree followed by made a content post, did this, planned this, did this, that made me the sale. And so, and then you look at point number two of like, oh, I don't want to feel sleazy, scammy, whatever. That just means that you've learned that cold outbound, whatever, is a scammy thing. And the question there is like, is your product a scam? And every time you ask that question to somebody who says, I don't want to scam or feel sleazy, it's like, okay, are you scamming people? No. Then what are we talking about? Like, where's the issue here then? Like, if you don't think this is sleazy and you don't, there shouldn't be an issue there. So the solution to either of these things is rewarding yourself for doing the right behaviors, because there's time that elapses between, okay, I sent the first message and nothing happened. I've sent the second message and nothing happened. And then you'll send 20 messages and nothing happened. And then you'll be sitting on the couch watching Netflix and somebody responds. Once again, learning the lesson of like, okay, I've done nothing, therefore this is working. And so when you separate, and with enough time that goes by, it's hard to make the connection between this thing got me this result. When in reality, the point is to do the reps. The point is to reach out to people. Like, if people really believed that their product was great, they would not be shy to tell people. And so I think that's also a root of it as well, is that, like, if you are an evangelist of your product, you would walk around, you would scream in the fucking streets. You would like go through your neighborhood. You'd be like, everybody needs to try this. Please come try this. And so the second option, or the second example that you give, another thing is like, just look at your product. Like, if you're not excited to go tell people about it, you could probably do a little bit better on your product. And that's okay. Make your product better and then get excited to tell people.
I agree with that statement so much, because the clients that I might work with, or people that I come in contact with that are they feel scammy, sleazy, whatever the word is, they don't want to do it. It feels gross, right? I don't want to piss someone off. They typically haven't worked with many clients yet. So that's usually an issue. Or they might be an in-person trainer where people have just, the gym is feeding them clients. It's not like they've had to acquire them on their own. But half the time these people don't have a framework for their coaching either, right? And like you said, you have to love what you do and love what you provide. And jokes aside, there's a barista at the coffee shop I go to all the time, and he and I have just become friends. And I'll say something, and he might respond back with, well, not everyone's on the path to 4%, like as a joke, right? And like he uses like my coaching as a joke sometimes in terms of like, it's an elite level of thing. Like we talk about it frequently. My point is my friends know what I do. I talk about it. My family knows what I do. If you are not totally obsessed with you getting results and how you get results, then there is a problem there, right? Because I know for me, one of the rules I had for myself, just like a personal thing, when I first started trying to get my first 10 clients, was I told 10 people about my business every single day, whether that was at the studio I was at, whether that was at work. I just talked about it all the time. And then when I got excited, they got excited. And so I think that when we think about selling and outbound, I know you and I have different methods and we'll talk about that, but you know, I don't necessarily send messages to people that are, you know, hey, I'm Taeler. Do you want to run a 7-figure business like me? Let's talk. Like, I don't typically do messages like that, but I still send random messages to strangers every single day. And 4 years down the road, we've got, you know, a 7-figure run rate, right? So tell me a little bit about like the frequency in which you would suggest. Let's talk about a new coach, okay? A new coach who's shooting for their first like 10K month, right? What are you suggesting they do? How much outbound to get results?
100 people a day. Like, and I would honestly just start with everybody that you know and start there. Because like if you hit up 100 people a day and you just offer help rather than like offer a sale. So there's a little bit more to that question of like, rather than actually focused on, okay, well, I'm going to outbound 100 people. What the hell does that mean? It's like, I'm going to start 100 conversations. I'm going to offer to help 100 people. It's like, that sounds hard. You're correct. That's why making money is difficult. And so I would start with what you can actually maintain. Number one, like don't start with 10 kilometers on the treadmill every day if you can only do one. But realistically, like 100 is where you want to work up to. And I would just start with people that you know, friends, family, colleagues, whatever, personal trainers, people at the gym, doesn't matter. Like if you want to offer nutrition services, the first thing that I would do is I would list everybody that I know, people who follow me on Instagram, people who have me as a friend on Facebook, all the contacts in my phone. I would list all those people out and I would make some form of offer to them to help them out. And that could be like writing them a meal plan, sending them like an Instacart grocery list of like only health foods. And I'll send them like some love. Just be like, hey, I'm starting a new venture in my business. I'm going to be helping people with nutrition. Just wanted to provide you with this because I found it super helpful for myself. Let me know if you find it helpful. And they'll be like, oh, cool, thanks. Or they'll ignore you. Either way, you've made an intention to help somebody. Because let me ask you this, like, what is a sale?
What is a sale?
Yeah. Like, what does the word sale mean?
I don't think I've ever defined that, but I mean, in my definition, I would say receiving. I mean, I'm thinking there has to be a checkout, right? Now, if you're thinking money, cool, but I think maybe a transaction that's giving them some value, maybe.
Cool.
Like, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have to be monetary, maybe in your definition. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would say a transaction of goods and or services.
Yeah.
I'm paying for something, I'm getting something in return, right? And so we think of, okay, if we want to break that down even more to I'm giving something and I'm getting something in return. I'm giving you something and in return, I'm getting your attention. And that attention can start to compound because if you have somebody's attention, it's way easier to sell them to people. And that's why it's like we get this idea of like cold. It's like, yeah, they're cold. They don't know who you are. Get them to know who you are. How do you do that? Get their attention. And so if you actually like think about that, you're still making a sale. You're just exchanging something for free in exchange for attention. And then you can build from there. And when you're having a conversation with somebody, you still have their attention. And so I think that that's like easiest way to get people started is rather than reach out and asking for money, which is panhandling and providing no value, if you give the value, people feel weird not exchanging that in return for something. And that could even just be a thank you.
And that compounds over time, like you said, right? Because I have this rule where I personally like to give somebody 2 pieces of value before I pitch anything or bring up an offer, right?
Mhm.
So that could be sending a podcast and getting affirmation like, wow, I learned XYZ. That could be sending them a lead magnet. That could be me just giving them a tip, right? Doesn't matter. But 2 points of them saying, wow, that was helpful. This, something, right? And then I might bring up the subject of like, hey, listen, let's talk about working together. And that typically goes over well. Whereas
Mhm.
like this idea of cold DMing, I know that you may have this like gross feeling about it, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's the only way you're going to get business is if you reach out to people. And it's not going to feel as gross if, like what Steve said, you start out with people that are your friends, family, I mean, God, the amount of people I went to high school with that I hadn't talked to in 10 years that signed up for coaching when I opened doors, I was like, oh shit, like you guys are paying attention to me. I mean, it's wild who comes out of the woodworks. And I think that we oftentimes assume, okay, I am an online business. Let's go talk to all of the strangers. And so I think that that's really
Mhm.
helpful. And then making sure that you're following up. Because if you send 100 messages or 10, or I don't care what the numbers, if you send these messages out, you better follow up later that night and answer. And then the next day, do follow ups, right? Like there has to be a way. I think we need to also remember one message is not enough most of the time, right? Like I've had the experience of sending about I'll send 3 to 5 messages to a lead before I consider them like not worth my time anymore.
Mm.
I don't know what your thoughts are on that. We may defer, but that's what we've found that it'll take not everyone, but we've made so many sales with people that we've reached out to like 3 to 5 times that then begin talking to us. They're just like silently lurking.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you had somebody that you actually wanted to get a hold of, would you reach out to them once?
Nope.
Right. You'd reach out to them like you actually wanted to get a hold of them. And if you actually want to get a hold of somebody, you'll try, like you'll at least do your best. And I think a lot of people will just like look at their friends list, they'll like message. This is how it usually happens. They'll be like, well, I can't message them because this thing happened. I can't message. Oh, I can't, definitely can't talk to them. Well, this person's going to think weird about me. And by the time that they get through their friends list, they've messaged like 8 out of 800 people. And it's like, okay, so where do you want us to go from here? Like the clear lever that you need to pull is volume. And what's really interesting is that you keep bringing up like sleazy, scammy, etc. What's really interesting is like if people knew how algorithms actually worked, you would feel way less weird just messaging somebody. Like the way that like advertising actually happens of like they look at your web browsing history, the stores that you go to, they give you customized ads based off of like your preferences. That to me feels way more weird, which is why I have ad blockers, feels way more weird than if somebody just offers me help. They're like, hey, do you want some help? I'll be like, no, maybe, sure. But instead, I get unsolicited, customized advertising all the time, everywhere, billboard, like whatever. And so I much prefer, like, as a human, somebody who reaches out and has a conversation with me above anything else. And to be honest, I think that's like a huge reason why staying authentic and being human is going to, like, a lot of sales reps are concerned, oh, what's AI going to do? It's like, well, for the first couple of years, AI is going to be too robotic to be human, and so we'll be fine. And then it'll realize that it needs to be more human, and then we'll be fucked. But for the first couple of years, we'll be all right. And so just being like genuine goes a really, really long way, and feels. If you take a genuine approach, you will feel genuine. If you take a disingenuine approach, you will label that as whatever you decide to, which could be sleazy, scammy, whatever.
The amount of compliments I get in the DMs from my leads that always tell me, thank you for just taking the time to chat with me, because I am sending voice memos galore and all of the things. And yes, I have a sales team, of course, but like I'm still very much involved in the sales process because I think that's what makes my sales process really unique compared to a lot of the other coaches, where you may never hear their voice until you sign up with them. And then it may just be a recording in a module, right?
Yeah.
So am I spending, 7 hours a day in the DMs? Like, absolutely not. But I think that's really, really important. And I make sure there's never really more than a 4-hour gap of time where we're not getting back to people in the DMs unless we're sleeping. And if it's during the day, it's likely a lot less than 4 hours. But I think that the big takeaway with the whole DM or personal or private messages or whatever, is that you just have to put the reps in, right? Like there's not muscle memory yet. And the more you scale, the higher you climb, I know we'll talk about teams and all of that, but you can start to outsource those things and whatnot. But I see the mistake, and you may have a different perspective than I do, but I typically don't recommend that my clients hire a setter until they can teach somebody how they sell themselves, like in the DMs or however, I'm referring to Instagram primarily, but I don't always recommend that. What are your thoughts?
I mean, like, why would you skip that part? Like, unless you're making like 30 grand a month, you can run a solo operation and make 400 racks a year, 400 grand a year.
Yeah.
And just you. Like, you don't need anybody else. And so I think people hire way too quickly because they don't know any better, is one thing. And they look at their time and they offload things that are huge priorities to the business. When in reality is that, like, if you manage your time correctly and depending on the outcome that you optimize, 400 grand a year, solo operation, low, like you could probably operate that thing at like 93% profit. I think that is fine. And so people often will go out and they'll be like, hey, can I have a setter? And they're doing like 9 grand a month. It's like, what? No. It's like, you can, but like, why would you want that? It's gonna wreck your profit. You're not gonna enjoy it. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I would say is that, like, work on doing the work. And once again, it really I'll say this caveat on it is that it depends on the goal that you wish to optimize for. And so if you have a 400 grand a year goal, then why need a setter? But if you have like I want to make 3 grand a month and I don't care about my profit, I just want to work on fulfillment all the time and be overworked and underpaid, sure, hire the setter. So that would be my stance.
Well, and the thing too, with like hiring a setter, like they're very hard to come by, like it is hard to find sales team members. It's hard to find any really great talent. But the thing with a setter when I see a setter hire go south, aside from just not being able to, train them on their process, it's almost like, oh, I hired a setter and then they just let them do their thing. Like there's not any oversight or management or meetings. I know when I brought on any setter, I'll just use my most recent example from, over about a year ago, but we're having 2 meetings a week where I'm auditing the process. I'm giving feedback. We're having meetings on like metrics and things like that. I mean, that's how you train the person. If you're bringing somebody in to sound like you and act like you and whatever, right? Then you've got to spend time with that person. They're not just going to jump in the DMs and then perform amazingly. And I don't care if they have sales skills or not, like it still takes time, like I've got a great closer. But it's not like he knew me and my language at first. Like you have to train these people. And so if you're going to bring somebody in to save time and you're barely making 8K months, right? Like, I think your priorities are a little off because like you said, the most important thing right then and there in that time of your business is the profit. And if you're outsourcing that, then like you don't have enough clients to take up a full, week of your time.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think a lot of people end up finding themselves in a business and then they hire to do the things that they don't want to do. And be like, I can't figure this out. I don't want to do it. I'm going to hire somebody else to do it. Hey, the thing that I don't want to do and haven't figured out yet isn't working with somebody else. So I'm going to get mad at that person, is often what happens.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it just comes down to laziness, right? Like, again, there are certain clients have worked with where they may be at a lower income level than I would like, but they've at least mastered the process, but they've got hands tied with kids, family obligations, whatever they've got. And when I say setter, I don't always mean like an 8 hour a day type of thing. A lot of setters now, which I don't love, are only giving away, like not giving away, but offering 1 to 2 hours a day of their time. Right. So if you're able to find somebody who can handle, your lead tracker and the sourcing, and then you can focus on the nurturing and getting the calls booked. And that right there saves you some time. Sure. We can talk about that. But in my opinion, like I think a setter should be in your business minimum of 4 hours a day, if not 8, in order to like really do some damage.
Yeah, and if they can afford that too.
Correct. Yeah, because you don't want to run a business that's got like, 20% profit margins when you're making 8K, right? Because chances are, I'm hoping you're working with a mentor or something like that. And if you are and you're paying them, then hopefully they're not advising you to hire a setter right this second. So speaking of solopreneurs, right, and handling objections, I want to just throw some objections your way that I hear all the time, my clients hear all the time, and I just want you to tell me how you troubleshoot them on a sales call.
Sure.
Okay, great. I love hearing how you answer things because I feel like you just are super simple, and it's like, oh, okay, that was easy. Thanks, Steve. Mind blown. Okay,
Nice.
the first one. We love the husband partner of I gotta talk to my husband. Like that one. What do you say?
Well, great. I also probably want to talk to them. So I'll say this is here's the easiest way that I can simplify objections is there's only ever three types of objections. People will either give you, and so I'll make this more specific to this question in a second, is you will only ever get one of three types of objections, and people will call this, will make something up to deem it otherwise. But either people don't want to buy your thing, people don't have the circumstances to allow them to do the thing, people have a reason that they think they will not be successful with the thing. So a true spouse objection means that the other two are true, or means that they have buy-in on the other two. So as soon as somebody says, oh yeah, I want to talk to my spouse, I'd be like, cool, so you like this. You just want them to like it too. Awesome. You think you'll be successful with this? Great. So that's a true spouse objection, unless they lie to me, which often happens, but that's fine. But the number one thing is that you want to make sure is that you're actually handling the right thing. I will tell you straight up, there is 95, I'll even say 99% of spouse objections are just, I don't really want to do this, but my spouse isn't here, so I'm going to throw it on them. And they just use the scapegoat. And that's fine. You would probably do the same, not you, but like the royal you would probably do the same if you were on a sales call and you didn't want to buy something and you were trying to be polite to get off. And so right away, I'm not going to handle the spouse objection. I'm going to resell them or get clarity on what the hell is stopping them from being certain about this. Because the easiest way to think about this is like, if they really thought this was going to work, they truly thought this was going to work, they ain't talking to nobody. They're borrowing money to do it. So handling an objection, I think, happens way sooner than overcoming it in the moment. However, somebody says, hey, let me talk to my spouse. Okay, you want to do this and you think it's going to work for you? Terrific. What do you think your spouse is going to say? And they're going to say, well, they'll probably say this, this, and this. I'd be like, cool. So what are you going to respond to that? I'd be like, well, I would probably say that, they have some good concerns. Aha. So you think that this is their concern. Because as soon as you ask somebody, what do you think your spouse is going to say? They're going to tell you all the concerns that they have.
I love that
So
one.
they'd be like, oh yeah, well, I really think that he's going to say that he's concerned about the money. He's concerned about how much meal prep this is going to be. He's concerned about like how many times I have to go to the gym. I'd be like, it sounds like he has some valid concerns. What do you think about them? Be like, well, it is a lot of money. And, I don't really want to go to the gym that much. I'd be like, okay, great. So you don't even like it. And then we get to loop on that. We get to realize that like the thing that we're actually handling is their own uncertainty. So first question is always, what do you think they're going to say? So, and I will say this, I have an Italian girlfriend who I've been with for 5 years. I know what she's going to say. Anything that I ask her. If I ask her, hey, what are your thoughts on this? I know the answer. If I say, hey, if we did this, what would your thoughts around that be? I know what she's going to say. And so also most people know what their spouse is going to say. So even if it is a true spouse objection, you can still overcome that by asking the question, what do you think they're going to say?
I mean, that's what
cool. Hit me with another.
I laugh at that one a little bit though, because the only time I don't truly challenge that one is I've had people where they're like, all right, Taeler, listen, I do make every decision with my husband. He already knows I'm on the call today. I know he's going to say yes, but I definitely have to wait to check out until later this evening. And anytime somebody has told me that, they've checked out that evening. Like I've had people say that to me where they're like, I'm afraid to like swipe my card until like my husband gets off of work. I've had that before. But just like you,
Yeah.
somebody is truly like, I need to talk to my husband. The first question I always
Mhm.
ask is, did they know if you were having this call today? And if they said no, no idea, then I'm like, oh, well, like, why not? Are you, you know what I mean? Because I've also found, especially with fitness coaching, husbands that maybe are not like, oh, you know, they think their wife doesn't need it or whoever, right? Or with business coaching, maybe somebody had a previous business coach and the husband or wife said yes, and that didn't work for them. And so they've got a bad taste in their mouth. So again, I think it depends, but it's not also uncommon for me to just invite the husband or whoever to the call ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Like I try to handle those objections because I don't do 2 call closes. So and I do a lot of like work in the DMs. And if I know that somebody is going to need their spouse approval, then I just invite them to the call. It makes it way easier. And then no one can lie to you about, oh, I got to ask him. Well, he's right there. What does he think? Right. So anyway, I think there's a few ways to kind of combat that. But okay, the next one. The people that say they want to do it, but just not yet. They need another month. They need another 6 weeks. They need whatever it is. They need another paycheck to come in.
Nice. So that just comes down to the circumstances. They don't have the ability to do it. So as soon as they say it's like, yeah, I'm just waiting for money and then I'll do it, I'll be like, that's great. And so that money is, so if it is a timing specific thing, what I always want to do is I want to go the exact timeline that they give me. And then I want to isolate that. So if they say, oh yeah, I'm just going to wait 2 weeks. Awesome. So if I give you a call 2 weeks from now, or sorry, when, very key. When I give you a call 2 weeks from now, and you feel the exact same way that you feel right now, we're just going to get you enrolled and get you going, get you started. And what I'm seeking, everybody's going to say yes to that because it's easy. But what I'm really looking for is like, yes, totally, 100%. Like I want like an emphatic yes. And if I get that, then I'm just going to go, okay, cool. So here's what we do in these situations, because you're not the first person to do this, is we'll fill out all the onboarding material now because our coaches get booked up all week anyways. And so we'll be able to put you on the calendar. We'll be able to get you scheduled in. I'll send you all the onboarding material. The only thing that I ask is a small commitment from you, which is you just sign the agreement. And then once you sign the agreement, I'll send you all the NDA stuff that I'm allowed to send you. Does that seem fair enough? They'll be like, yeah, maybe, I mean, maybe. That's still an objection. But if they go, yeah, great, then I'm like, okay, cool. It's a done deal. It's sold. That's usually how I go about that one. Another thing is if they have, so that's just if like they're waiting on a check. But if they have a circumstantial issue coming up, like a wedding or vacation's a super common one. They'll be like, yeah, you know, I really want to do it, but I'm somebody who goes all in when I do things. Like I'm not somebody who has
Yes.
anything. It's the
Yes.
one that's how everybody is. They'll be like, yeah, so I just when I get back from vacation, I'm gonna go all in. Like, okay. Can I ask you a question? Do you think that you'll have vacation more times instead of just this one time? They'll be like, yeah, I'm probably going to take more vacation in my life. I'll be like, right. So would you like to learn how to solve this problem and still have a regular life? Or are you looking for something that's going to be entirely focused and like a complete restricted thing? Because that's not what this is. And so I want to be very clear on that. And then they'll be like, no, no, I just want this. I'll be like, cool. So you're not the only person to ever say that they've been on vacation. So what we'll do is instead of this program being 12 weeks, I'm going to buy you a week. It's going to be 13 weeks. We're going to put you on pause for the week that you're on vacation. I'm not going to make you feel guilty about you doing anything, but you're still going to be, you're still going to have access to all the resources for those 13 weeks.
I get that. Like that one's a big one for sure. And I think I hear that more so with the business coaching side of things versus fitness. I never really had anyone give me the vacation, more so because I did a lot of, you know, people that were struggling with restrictions and all of that. And they were like, I want to learn how to not go crazy on vacation.
Mm.
But with business, I get that a lot, right? I've worked with a lot of women in particular where husbands may have like they've got a military family, right? So well, my husband's going to leave for like 12 weeks and I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom without my husband. Like, I just need to be all in. And I'm like, I literally said that, actually, what you said. I said, is this the only time? Is he going to be gone at all next year? Well, yeah, but like quarter 1, I think is easier. And I said, didn't you just tell me he was unexpectedly gone in quarter 4? What if he's unexpectedly gone in quarter 1? Right. Like, and, it just brings up an interesting conversation because I feel like they are not trying to lie. It's almost like they've convinced themselves that is the truth and they will be all in at this time. And then when you kind of come back, they're not expecting you to. And that's what I want to keep reiterating on these quick objection handling tactics, is that when somebody says something, don't just say okay and hang up. Like, get to the root of the problem, because if you're able to solve that now, it's going to make it so much easier to either sell them on the call or sell them in the future. Right.
Yeah, actually, let's pause there for a second. Okay. No is the job. Like, you should expect no. People, I'll be like, yeah, it's $12,000. Like, I'm not ready for, okay, here's $12,000. Like, cool, that would be nice. And it happens every now and again, but I definitely don't expect it. And so when people are like ready, so people will often make decisions, but they will not make commitments at the same time. So somebody may decide that they want to move forward. However, they are not committing. And so they may, yeah, totally. I really want to do this. Just give me a little bit of time. And what they're doing is they're delaying the commitment. Super common. And so, yeah, or you're going to get no, which means, okay, decision's been made. Or sorry, if you, I'll re-clarify. You're going to get maybe. And when you get maybe, that means that the decision's an open loop and there's no commitment. If you get yes, I want to do this, just not now, they're not committing. If you get no entirely, you fucked up something. So just let that one go. But if you get yes, just not now, okay, you've made the decision. However, how can we figure out the commitment part? So that's what I'm always seeking. Do you want to do this? Do you like this? Do you think it'll work for you? Yeah, really will. Just want to make sure that I have enough money in the bank account so that I can pay my bills. Okay, well, that's fair enough. Like, I don't want your last dollar. So that's where we want to get to, of like a definitive yes on the decision so that we can help them make the commitment. And a lot of people just give up after they get the decision and they let the person make the commitment on their own. When in reality, it's like, what the fuck's your job? Like, your job is to help people make commitments to themselves. And so when you can actually help somebody make a commitment to themselves, in this case, financial, you're effectively changing their behavior and changing the way that they will live the next foreseeable future. And so I think at least try, like, at least do something. Ask a clarifying question. Yeah, I really want to do this, just not maybe yet. Okay, what the hell does that mean? Like, help me understand. I'm here to help you make a commitment. And if the commitment is no, you don't want to do this, that's fine, but let's not lie to each other.
Right.
I would rather somebody get off of my call and go, no, this isn't for me, than somebody go, yeah, this is for me, just not yet. I'd much rather a no. And in fact, I will tell them that in some cases.
Yeah, I think the more blunt and just transparent I am on a sales call, the better they go, right? Like, to me, I don't think it's like, okay, I have these tactics and I'm ready to use them. Like, I'm just myself and it's chill. And I think that definitely helps too. You know, I think if people spent some time looking at their body language, like I always suggest that my clients record their sales calls, right? Because you may think a call was like amazing and like, oh my God, it was so good. I don't know how they didn't say no or didn't say yes, or, you know, it was so great. I sent them the contract and then 3 days later, they haven't paid yet. They haven't signed, right? Go back and watch that sales call and see what happens when they gave you an objection. And just like check your body language, right? I think all that's like really important to take a look at. Because you may watch something back and go, oh, I didn't realize I said that, right? Or, oh, that wasn't that. So for sure. Okay, cool. So I wanted to kind of shift over to the people that are building sales teams and training them and all of that. And I want to know, do you recommend Do you recommend bringing on a setter first, bringing on a closer first? Is there a case you would bring on one before the other? Like, how do you kind of think about the sales team design?
The last hire I think any business owner should make is sales calls. So setter first until, I wish I had a perfect number for this, but you want to be doing sales calls for as long as possible. Pretty much indefinitely, in my
Why
opinion.
is that though? Because I agree with you 1,000%. And I think so many business owners outsource this way too early. Why should you be doing sales calls for so long?
So it's the only way you make money is if somebody gives you money. So the only way that you have money is if somebody gives you money. Why would you give that responsibility to anybody other than yourself? You're pretty much just saying it's like, hey, all my bills are now your problem. It's like it's so illogical. Like you would not look at your babysitter and just be like, hey, so you're just gonna like own the house and like take care of everything. It's like, what? No, I'm here to like I'm 14. I'm here to watch the baby. And that's the same kind of attitude that people take towards hiring a salesperson. Like you literally give all of the responsibility of your business making money to somebody else. It just sounds like a bad idea. Like nobody looks at that sentence as like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to give all the responsibility of me making money to somebody else. And then what will happen is they'll kick in and they'll be like, okay, let me like, well, if I just train them or if I just hire a killer, then I'll be fine. That's like the most common sentence. Is, oh, if I just hire a killer, like I won't need it. Okay, cool. Do you know how much money that you're going to be able to pay this person? They'll be like, yeah, like 3-4 grand a month. Great. How much do you think a killer wants? That's like there's a huge discrepancy. There's top 1% of salespeople that make like 300 grand a year. They're not looking at this opportunity. And so to hire a killer, you can't afford a killer. So if you're looking to offload sales calls, it's like, for the love of God, just don't. Like, there shouldn't even be, like, don't ask your coach. Just don't do it. Just take the sales calls, enjoy them. And if you don't enjoy them, figure out a way to enjoy them. Answering your question, hire a setter first.
I agree.
It's like, maybe.
Yes. But I agree with you. I think that having a setter to help with the sourcing and all of that, yeah, 1,000%. But anytime I've had a client that has already had a closer, I don't think I've ever had any of those clients where I've been like, this makes sense. Some of the clients listen to me, some of the clients don't. And the clients that don't listen to me and don't fire the person, 6 months goes by and they're still in the same position where they're like, I just don't get why they're not closing sales. Well, because you're not on the damn call, right? Especially for these fitness coaches, like you are selling a one-to-one offer. Why the hell are you not on that call with them? Like, that makes no sense, right? Like there is a reason. So like, for example, in my business, it's very rare that I do any sales calls for Fitness Coach Academy, which is my course. I outsource those. I'm in the DMs, whatever. Okay. My mastermind though, I am working with you on a private capacity. I am absolutely not outsourcing those calls at this time. Like I am getting on there. I'm chatting with you. I'm meeting with you. I'm making sure it's a good fit. And the amount of people that have told me like, I'm so happy you were on this call. And I think it's because a lot of bigger name coaches, like they have outsourced every single sales call. And I'm sure there'll be a point where I outsource more as well. But for me, that's my bread and butter. Like I love the sales calls. I love meeting the people. And if, like you said, if there's a reason that you just are so anti-sales calls, right? Like why? Figure that out. Because if you hate sales calls and you're not doing them and you outsource your sales calls and you're not closing sales, like there's a problem. You know, you have to get on there.
Agreed.
Yeah, 1,000%. So
just to add to that is that like health coaches, they do this thing, they have like this weird cognitive dissonance where it's like they will hand somebody a plan and they will look at them and they will say, if you eat these calories and you exercise this much, you will lose weight. Okay, logical sentence. Then they get mad at their clients for not following the plan and not losing weight. Now, those same people look at their business in the same light of, okay, those same people should look at their business in the same light of, okay, the numbers are telling me I need to hire a salesperson. I have too many calls that I'm taking here. I'm spending too much money on ads and I'm losing money in this spot. Therefore, the way that this company will make money is by me hiring a salesperson so that I can go make money somewhere else. But when you actually break down the numbers, it doesn't make sense. There's no more thing that you could be doing. So let's say you hire a salesperson. You're doing 50K a month for 50% profit margins to keep it easy. So you're making 25 grand a month in take home. Okay, great. So your time, if you work a 40-hour work week, your time is effectively worth like, I think, $250 an hour. So you hiring a salesperson, that person then has to generate an excess amount of that, and you have to go do a $250 an hour task. You do not hire a salesperson so that you can browse Netflix or whatever. You hire a salesperson because it makes sense to the business. And so that, like, you have to actually look at the math of like, how much are you worth to the company? How much are you worth to yourself? And then does it justify making, or do those two things justify hiring somebody to take over the responsibility of the company of making money? And more than likely, people will ask that first question and it'll be no. And then it's like, then don't hire a salesperson. And so rather than going off of feeling, go off of data.
Oh, you should always go off of data. For everything, amen. Yeah. The amount of times I say that is a lot. So, okay, that answered a lot of my question. Now, when you're thinking about just like the leadership aspect, right? Like the leadership aspect of training a sales team and running a sales team, are there any, like, how would you take, like, let's say we've got a CEO, they've got a setter and a closer, and the dynamic is just kind of off, right? How do you help these CEOs kind of develop leadership to just be a better leader and manager for their sales team, to incentivize them, to motivate them, to keep them moving forward, to keep them on track with the vision?
Yeah, they literally have to do three things: run a daily meeting, have the sales reps track their numbers, review their numbers. So you have to be making sure that you're monitoring the sales reps numbers, and then they have to fill out an end-of-day report. So those are like the technical things. If they do those three things, that's like the 80%. And then the other 20% is like, just be somebody that they want to work for. And if you're looking at your team and you're like, they're underperforming, it's like, they might not love working for you. They might like you, but they don't love it. If you have a team of people who just love you and people who will like die on a sword to do anything for the company and the mission of the company and where the company's going, that's totally different. And so that just comes down to mission, vision, values of the company. And so if you're not fully communicating wins, testimonials, where the company's going, the mission that you're on, how you're helping lives, changing people's direction, if you're not consistently doing that and you're wondering why your sales team's in a piss poor position and they're not performing, I'd start with that. Like, I would literally just start with that of like, hey, we're going in this direction with the company. You're contributing to that. Thank you for being here. It sounds so simple, but it's like people miss that.
What I love about you though, it's like, it cracks me up because yes, you're just, yeah, we're similar in that regard. But
yeah,
that's why we got you on here, Steve. Just simple, to the point. We love it. I agree. I think that I've come across a lot of CEOs that just, they don't love the managerial spot or whatever. Or I've asked them, hey, how often are you meeting with your sales team? Oh, like, well, I mean, I talk to them in Slack every day. Well, that's if you're watching the YouTube video, you can see that he's laughing, but like, you're laughing at that, right? So, okay, great. So
let me say this.
Yeah.
If you would like to be friends with somebody, if you're in a relationship with somebody and it's like, yeah, we just text, it's fine. It's like, what? Like, use your brain. Come on, that's not enough.
Text sometimes, but we're super serious. Like, we're probably getting married, but we just text sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't. Okay, great. Yeah, then you're in like a situationship with your sales team. No one needs that. No one needs that. All right, so I've got some FAQs, like just some rapid fire questions that I get a lot from clients that I'm going to throw your way, and I would love it if you have any too. So How much time should I spend like pitching my service?
As long as it takes to explain it clearly. So, and no longer than that. As long as it takes to say it clearly and no longer than that. There we go.
2 call close versus 1 call.
Yep. Both are useful. I would say I would say like start with 2 and then move to 1 once you figure out how to get people to build desire. If you think about the problem that the 2 call close solves, it's exposure to you, and people end up like liking, trusting you more. So once you figure out how to solve that problem via some other vehicle, could be a video messages, whatever beforehand, then move to the 1 call close.
The amount of Loom videos I have recorded that my team is ready to send out, or I'm ready to send out when somebody needs it, right? Like, yeah. Make sure you do that, because I am not doing 2 call closes. We are not. My podcast solves that problem. Loom videos solve that problem. Content solves that problem. So get creative. I just get a lot of clients that are doing 2 call, or I don't get a lot of clients. I talk to people that are doing 2 call closes, and they've got a shitty outbound method. They're not really in their DMs, and they think that's like, just get them on a call fast and then it'll make it happen. Right. And like, if you're not prepared, right, it's not going to really be helpful. So I think a 2 call close is like an acquired skill too. I don't think it's always as easy as people make it sound, like, oh, just like meet them on the first call and close them on the second. Like, I think it's more nuanced than that. That's my opinion though, but I don't do them. So I can't really say much with experience. Okay. Scripts. This comes up a lot. Like, do I need a script? How close do I have to stick to it? And I don't have scripts.
Okay. Interesting take. I would say scripts solve the problem of mimicking a conversation between somebody who cares and somebody who has a problem.
Yep.
So if you're learning the skill of sales, scripts help a lot. If you're efficient with the process, I'll just say this: the sales reps that I had to follow the script to the T make more money than those who just wing it. And I don't have a script. However, I've taken 10,000 sales calls. And so it's like, I kind of know what I have to tell you. Like, I know what you need to tell me. But I would say is that, like, you need to follow some script. I don't know why I'm doing that. You need to follow a script. You need to follow a script so that you can learn the skill and you can learn how a conversation happens. And then once you have that, you can deviate from it and get cute. But don't get cute before you are given like the green light from yourself to do so. So if you heard Taeler, what's that?
Everything goes back to dating. Just everything we say, revert it back to dating, and it'll apply. Yeah,
exactly. Like, if you heard Taeler say, I don't have a script, I think the wrong lesson there is I can sell without any practice.
Let me clarify that, because I do know people will hear this and say, well, Steve said to do it. She said no. Okay. Yeah. I don't have formal sales training. Let me say that. So when I first started DMing people, I don't even know why I did this. I had been using Instagram since 2012, right? And I started my business in 2019. So I was already, I already had nearly 10 years of building a fitness kind of like brand, so to speak. Like, people knew what I was doing. And so I was already talking to people frequently in the DMs. It was something I was already doing. So it didn't feel like selling. Now, when I started to sell things and I realized what I was doing, then I started taking note of, every time I say this, I get this response, and this gets this response. And I started kind of, if this, say this, if this, say this. And I kind of broke that down. Now, anytime I've hired a sales team member, I definitely have scripts or conversation examples, or how to get from A to B. Here's how you open a conversation. Here's how you pivot a conversation. Here's how you pitch, right? But I think a lot of coaches listening, they download one sales script and they're like, I got to stick with this one thing I downloaded for free from this other coach. And it's like, no, you have to add your human element to it. That's what I mean by scripts, because everyone can find a sales script today that they did not write, because I give them out, right? And I would say, if anyone downloads a sales script from me, please add your voice to it.
Yes. Okay. Now I'm tracking. Frameworks help. If you go in and you're just like, I'll wing it. Like, just here, you know what? Like, Sure. But how are you going to know what's repeatable? And you
That's
pretty
it.
much just broke down of like, I said these things and I got this result. That to me looks like a repeatable process. I'll label that as a script.
Okay, good. So basically have a script, but just don't get so married to it that you're like, oh my God, that line isn't on the script. They said something that I haven't heard before. What the fuck do I do? Like, you have to learn as you're going through it. And you can't learn how to be like, I just think that scripts sometimes limit you to being too robotic. And so there's this idea right now, because like there's so many companies that are promoting scripts and sales companies that are helping people build sales teams and all that's great. But like I said, I think a lot of coaches assume that once they get their hands on this magical script, it's like, that's really not it. Like you have to build a framework that works for you. And if you need some help, like you just suck at pivoting to the fitness conversation, or you just suck at pitching, then like, let's focus on that piece of the script to make better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Let me ask you this.
okay.
When was the last time you hung out with your best friend?
One of them is at my house currently, so frequently.
Okay. Uh, what was one of the things that they said to you in a in your most recent conversation? Hard to figure out. How did they make you feel?
Good.
There you go. And so it's like, you don't remember words people say, you remember how they made you feel.
Yep. I agree. And people really struggle to be a human, right? Like that's why I get involved in the DMs and will stay involved in the DMs despite having a sales team, because I want people to know that I care. I am involved. I am chatting with my potential clients and all of that. Like I'm not too cool to hang out in my DMs. And that's where people I think miss it, is they get to their first 10K month. Woo! Like I've made it, mom. Look, it's like, no. You're just starting out. Like you're just building. And I think that people are reverting to, like you said, outsourcing, or they've heard a guru say to do 2-call closes and they don't know why. And that's the thing with sales. Like, I don't care if you have formal training or not. You have to figure out what works for you, and you can repeat it over and over and kick ass at it. Because like I said, I know you and I have tons of differences. I think we're kind of like saying the same thing in two different ways, but you know, I feel like even though I don't have formal training, I think you and I are probably like, I would love to listen to a sales call you've done. I'd love to send you one of mine, because I think that we probably have similar takes on what we do, even though we have different backgrounds, you know? So figure out what works for you, but just don't forget to be a human. Because like you said, if somebody gets off a call with you and they're just like, well, she told me a bunch of shit that was included in her offer, but like you didn't make them feel like you could change their entire life, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like people just want to know that your thing can help them. Actually,
Exactly.
I wrote this. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Who's your hero?
Man, every time I get asked that question, I don't know what to say. I don't know. I really don't know. I like 1000% don't know. It's the same thing with like, what's your favorite movie? I don't know. I'm so bad at that.
Don't know? Okay.
I truly don't know. Do you have one? I really don't have one.
A hero?
Yeah.
I'm the one asking the questions. I don't have one. All right. I just had to ask. I had to ask you something while I pulled this up.
Okay.
So
Ask me my favorite band. I'll give you a better answer, but like, I don't fucking know.
So selling further explained is asking questions about the prospect to better explain the product to them.
Yeah.
Followed by a custom explanation of the product, including but not limited to what the product is, explained as an expert, how the product works for them, explained with enthusiasm, why the prospect should care, explained with empathy. Closing, further explained, is the ability to plan and commit to terms. So this involves the salesperson to assist the prospect in making the time and money commitment. Effective closing requires a salesperson to listen to the prospect's concerns carefully and address them in a way that frames their concerns or reasons not to buy as benefits to reasons to buy. So as a salesperson, they must seek three things. Does the prospect want to buy this? Certainty. Can the prospect buy and use this thing? Competency. Does the prospect believe this will work for them? Confidence. So when you're closing, you're looking for certainty, competency, and confidence from the prospect. There you go.
In chapter. I mean, like, again, I I don't have any other like random FAQs that I wanted to kind of throw at you, but it was really just kind of bringing this full circle, right? Like in summarizing it. Number one, please God, do outbound sourcing. Like stop sitting on it, do it. If you tell me you're finding 5 people and 10 people a day, I will tell you there's a reason you're not landing sales, right? Like I do not tell my clients to send 100 messages a day, but I'm not going to tell you that I've not done that. And I'll let you conclude whatever you want, like listening to that, you know? The other thing too is objection handling. A lot of what you said came back to, you know, 2 or 3 things, right? So really look at the pre-qualification you did, really take a look at your sales calls, go back and audit what you're doing. And then finally, don't hire a sales team right now. I don't know where you're at, but I'm guessing don't hire somebody right now if you're listening. It's like, wait, just wait.
I can pretty much guarantee don't hire a sales team.
Just wait. Cool. All right, Steve. Well, I'm going to drop your Instagram below and anything else. I know that you are constantly on your Instagram handle, but whatever you send me will be linked in the show notes. But is there anything else I should have asked you or didn't?
Good question. Thank you for asking. I would overall just say it's like the 2 character traits so just know is that like in the past 2 years, I've done 6,000 call reviews of sales calls. Like I've watched 6,000 people either give somebody money or not. And so I know this. The sales reps that are the most successful are the ones that sell with care and integrity. And so if you keep those 2 things center of your attention when you're going through sales calls, that I hope is your takeaway is like, go through your calls with care and integrity, and that will go further than anything else that I've said.